Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today we will discuss the fresh agreement reached between India and China to de-escalate tensions at the line of actual control. Military commanders of India and China have reached a fresh agreement on de-escalating tensions at the line of actual control. The most significant part of the joint statement issued after the talks is that the two sides will stop sending more troops to the front line, refrain from unilaterally changing situation on the ground and avoid taking actions that may complicate the situation. The two sides also agreed to take practical measures to properly solve problems on the ground and jointly safeguard peace and tranquility in the border area. What does this agreement mean in practical terms? We will analyze this in the agenda today. We have with us retired Brigadier Vinod Datta and international security expert Mr. Jitendra Kumar Ojha. But before we start our conversation, let us have a look at this small report.
India and China have now held 6 rounds of talks at the level of military commanders since the aggression launched by the Chinese People Liberation Army at the line of actual control in Ladakh sector in May. After the 6th round of talk at the LAC, the two sides reached an agreement which was reflected in a joint statement. The main features of the agreement are that the two sides will stop sending more troops to the front line, refrain from unilaterally changing situation on the ground, and avoid taking any action that may complicate the situation. The two sides also agreed to take practical measures to properly solve problems on the ground and jointly safeguard peace and tranquility in the border area. They underscored the need for earnestly implementing the important consensus reached by leaders of two countries, strengthen communication on ground, avoid misunderstandings and misjudgments. The two sides also agreed to hold the next round of talk as soon as possible. However, what was conspicuous by its absence explicitly in the joint statement was the restoration of status quo ante, which means restoration of the situation on the LAC as it existed in April. There was no mention about pullback of troops from all the friction points beginning, but China has not been implementing. China has reportedly amassed about 50,000 troops and deployed fighter planes and missile systems at the LAC. India has also undertaken the deployment in equal measure. This has led for the first time since 1962 to an eyeball-to-eyeball situation at the LAC, which is dangerous. And the danger can be averted only after China pulls back its troops. Till then, Indian forces will have to remain on high alert. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, Brigadier Datta and Mr. Ojha. Welcome to the program, sirs.
Thank you.
So my first question is to Brigadier Datta. You must have read about this statement, joint statement issued by India and China after the talks. So what was a striking thing you found in that?
Ajayji, good evening. First of all, it is always a pleasure, to be interacting with you, and one always, goes wiser after, interacting with you. These talks, which have just been concluded, and they were really, significant in two ways. Firstly, this was the first, dialogue which was there between which had a combined team of military and diplomatic leaders, and they had representation of both. And secondly, it was, if I can use the word, at the behest of China, because China was also insisting for talks after what has happened on 29th and 30th August. And another striking feature was the new corps commander designate was also present there, who's likely to be spearheading the operations in Ladakh Valley, in Ladakh sector. So
after the retirement of Lieutenant General Harinder Singh.
No, Harinder is not going to retire. He'll be posted out because generally he's, in fact, completed his tenure, and these are, high pressure appointments, and the people are turned over well in time. And he overstayed because of the present situation. So it is a normal turnover, and the new corps commander is again a very, very excellent, leader. He's a true soldier. So I'm sure the Indian Army is going to do well, and the main points of the discussions which were there was firstly, it was a consensus which was reached between the two parties that they are going to they are not they will not be allowed to amass any more troops. Secondly, there will be no misunderstanding or misjudgments between the two parties. And thirdly, no party should unilaterally decide or try to alter. Of course, this has been spelled out in various other, previous protocols also. And they will avoid any situation which will lead to any complications thereafter. So it was a good, meeting. But the question mark still remains the same. China is going to, honor these points.
Right.
Because today China's position is basically he's on a back foot because of, our gaining the heights in the Spangur Plateau and the Chushul Bowl. And the heights of, Black Top and Magar Hill and various other features. So China is at a, bargaining table. So we must encash on these talks, and but at the same time we should not lower our guard, as China is quite famous of taking the U-turns.
Okay, let me now go to Mr. Oja. Mr. Oja, you must have read about the statement, but most important part of what I thought was that the two sides will not send any more troops to the LAC or the front line. So how do you read that? That means whatever has been amassed so far is there. They are not going to be withdrawn.
Yeah, to that extent, it certainly constitutes a progress that the possibility of further escalation of tension is sought to be addressed. But as fellow panelist Brigadier Datta has said, Chinese have a tendency to renege on whatever they commit. So that concern is there. But of course, what is brightening that amidst all these tensions and misunderstandings, these talks are continuing. Look, war is not in interest of any of the countries. But Chinese, in this kind of situation, they had come with extensive preparations. They had made certain calculations. Those calculations have gone wrong. They never expected this kind of stiff resistance from India. Your calculations were different. But, we must compliment our troops. They are holding on, but we cannot take Chinese this thing seriously. We have to be careful that even if there is some kind of, I wouldn't say reproach, some kind of understanding is also there on this issue. We have to be careful that what move they have up on their sleeves, we may not be aware, because already there are a lot of concern. I have no first-hand information about the position and the so-called intrusion they have taken. They met in Depsang sector. Of course, in Eastern Ladakh, our brigadier has pointed out that we are in a position of advantage. Our troops have surprised them, and we are holding heights. We are holding rather stronger access to passes as well. So there we have an advantage. But Chinese have come with very, very extensive preparations. We have to watch what move they have. And if possible, I would say that, instead of leaving entire initiative to them, we have to retain some initiative. We have to surprise them, because this kind of war has already started. Psychological war has already started, because they are trying to stretch and test us. And we have also, our troops have also tested them. So we have to surprise them. We have to build a lot of pressure on them. We also have to use these talks to, as you say, leverage our position, secure advantages, because normal this thing with China is not possible. Normal neighborly peace and stability with China appears unlikely, because President Xi Jinping has been causing a lot of volatility within the China. a lot of communist leaders, he has purged them. Internally, he has been under difficulty, and the whole thing is, has been orchestrated even to demonstrate to internal audience that how powerful he is externally, and also he has been trying to send a message to the Americans that they are the biggest power in this part of the world, and there cannot be any resistance, and India is not in their league. Of course, whether we are in their league or not, but we have told them that our troops have conveyed a very clear message that China cannot afford the luxury of taking India lightly and cannot afford any indulgence like what they attempted on the border. The cost will be very high. I'm sure the Chinese leadership has learned the lesson, but given the Chinese commitment to deceit and deception and surprise, we have to be extremely careful, and I'm sure our defense forces would also be planning something to see that whatever advantage we have secured here and whatever may be position even in Depsang sector, we are fully prepared to salvage the situation and maintain it to our advantage. And let me also tell you one more thing, that unlike Chinese army, which is army of party,
right,
and it's not entirely that cohesive, as the media would like to project it, given in a fear-driven system also there are signs of fissures. Compared to that, our defense forces are defense forces of a democratic country. We are very proud of them, and they are there. Their morale is way better than the Chinese, their Chinese counterpart.
Okay, Brigadier Datta, as Mr. Oja also talked about, and you also talked about the deceitful nature of China. And when we talk about an agreement or understanding reached that no further troops will be sent to the front line, and that we are talking after when China has reportedly amassed 50,000 troops and air fighters and missile systems and all those things at the front line. So what does it mean after that?
Ajay ji, देखिए, the kind of troop development, troop deployment which was there, if you see in August, China had about 35,000 troops across us. And in September, they increased to almost 50,000 troops.
Right.
Now there are reports that, one of the most important thing what China did was that they reshuffled their commanders. The Western Theater Commander, Commander, Lieutenant General Zhao, he's the same person, Zhao Zhongli, who was in Doklam. So, Mr. Xi has a lot of faith in him, and he considers him to be a very decisive general. But what is happening is that, there are no troops available. Now there are reports that the troops are being, shifted, or are they being asked from the Northern Theatre Command. And there are troops, they are looking for recruitment in Mongolia. And China already has a dispute with Mongolia. They have dispute with Manchuria.
Right.
So, China is really, caught in a quandary where China doesn't know where to look, because the resources are getting, applied fragmentedly, because there are so many fronts which are open. There can be internal, security problems in China because of the Uyghur Muslims. The Tibet card is getting heated up. So, if the Tibet card gets heated up and, some kind of wind is also being given by the government in exile, which is located in India, I'm sure China will find it very difficult. And Taiwan, of course, there is almost, they are at loggerheads.
Right.
And any kind of trigger or any kind of, China cannot afford any kind of, a risk of kinetic conflict with India. Because any trigger, keeping in view the situation in America, the elections around the corner, the America is waiting for any kind of, trigger or any kind of instigation, and he will let go and he will unleash, hell on China.
But Brigadier Datta, as you mentioned about trigger already exists, because that's what I'm saying. If we have 50,000 troops on the Chinese side and maybe the matching number on the Indian side, and they are eyeball to eyeball with all assets, military assets, the trigger already is there. So how is it de-escalating?
No, you see, if you see the stance of China, China has already taken a very, very softer stand. If you see earlier face-offs, China never used to even give a statement, or very sparingly, one kind of, the general statements were issued by China. Now China has been pressing hard. China has been requesting for an audience with our defense minister. China has been requesting that we should sit across the table and discuss when our foreign minister was there. So now it is the initiative and the kind of eagerness which China is showing, because China has realized that yes, the kind of aggressiveness and the muscular nationalism which India is showing, I mean, it can prove very, very dangerous to the Chinese government. And secondly, China is also facing a lot of opposition from within. The Xi Jinping's policy and the expansionist policies, which he has not been able to withstand or substantiate, is also a cause of worry. And he's facing a stiff resistance from within. And the parties and the cadre is not very happy with the kind of fronts which he has opened and at the wrong time. So his time and space calculation has really gone bad.
So, Mr. Oja, as Brigadier Datta talked about Tibet, the Tibet factor. So, is there a kind of possibility if there is flare up and Tibetan people may rise more? I mean, there could be a problem for China in that region?
They have changed the demographic composition in Tibet very drastically. Of course, there would be some possibility like this, but original Tibetans within Tibet, they have been reduced into minority. They have never liked China. They are not going to accept China. But the kind of suppression they are facing, the kind of oppression they are facing is very systematic. So this kind of uprising appears very difficult because given the Chinese military machine or an internal security machine, so that is there. But what Brigadier Datta said, about internal issues, recently only a 69-year-old party man who was initially a military person and then shifted into some real estate business or something like this, he has been sentenced to 18 years of prison,
right.
Some fake kind of corruption charge. But he had described Xi Jinping as a clown or something like this. 2 million people, 2 million Chinese Communist Party cadres, they have been tried under various charges of corruption. Look, in China also it is impossible for people to live without corruption. The systems are such that everybody has something or the other to hide. And what Xi Jinping has done, whomsoever he has desired, whomsoever he has suspected, he has targeted only those people in the name of corruption. So 1 million people are believed to have gone to jail. They have disappeared. Another million people, they have been facing harassment. So 2 million people, as per Western media, they are under this kind of charge. And people are in this list in a very senior position, very senior functionary in CCP. So he has used this anti-corruption move, to purge all his political opponents. And he had removed the restriction on tenure. To presidency tenure, which was their part of Chinese system. He has removed that also. So internally, within political system of China, there is a lot of resentment against Xi Jinping. And some people, including myself in one of the lectures, in January this year, we said that, the kind of situation it is evolving in China, there's a fair possibility that he can scale up confrontation on the borders. This was in January, because this would be the only way for Xi Jinping, to protect himself. But, he has also been trying this thing for quite some time. Last few years, the way he brought about, this military restructuring and theater system that he has brought about, started talking about winning wars, and he was very emphatic about, reuniting entire Tibet or unification of Tibet. So this was a very clear signal that, in order to cover up his internal political turmoil, he was trying to build some kind of confrontation with India on the border. So this Tibetan people you are concerned, I know they would very much like, there is a spirit of resistance, but I think, given vast size and their small population, this would be difficult. But, even in an extraordinary situation, that can make a strong impact. But I see whole world right now, is looking up to India, those who are harassed by, Xi Jinping's policies. and there's a lot of admiration about India, the way it has stood up, and there's a lot of expectation that this is going to give a new fillip to Indianism and Indian spirit from this point of onwards. Things will change permanently, both for China and India. So we have to be careful. No doubt our defense forces, they are better prepared. They know Chinese psyche far more than what may be the case few years back. And as my previous analyst said, the robust nationalism of entire country, the world's biggest democracy, is on display, and not only display, it is genuine and substantive. So this should inspire not only people in Tibet, not for a military or serious uprising, but for a general, I would say, resistance to oppressive kind of policies which CCP has been trying to impose on the people, where no one is safe. Despite economic prosperity, there are issues. So I think we have to be very careful, one level, that we have no issues with people of China. The whole problem has been artificially created by one ambitious man who wants to leave a legacy in history. He wants to go down as the greatest man to have ever descended on this planet, and because of that kind of megalomaniac spirit, the people of this part of the world, they are under pressure. He has brought it, but I'm sure that the end is going to be much better for everyone, except for CCP and this ruling clique of the present president of China, which is a threat to its own people and which is a threat to people all over the world.
Mr. Oja, I will maybe refer you to a media report today which quotes an anonymous Indian official saying that these talks were not for disengagement mainly, but for creating a positive atmosphere. How hopeful are you that this joint statement or agreement will create a positive atmosphere?
Look, this atmosphere is certainly positive. There is no doubt about it that even in middle of so much of stress and tension and whatever has happened, talks are going on. In diplomacy, we say that even if you agree to meet next time or agree to continue talks, that is also a progress. But I feel that as long as we are not completely or entirely out of it, we cannot afford to relax. And given the psyche of Xi Jinping and the kind of people whom he is trusting or who are around him, I think we have to be prepared until this is entirely dismantled, and that appears very, very difficult, to be honest, if you ask me. But yes, this kind of thing is there. If he realizes that there's a lot of pressure and cost will be too heavy for him, I'm sure he's going to back off only then.
Brigadier Datta, if we refer to the agreement, it talks about no further escalation, but it doesn't talk about status quo ante. So does that mean whatever has changed for permanent? I mean for ever?
Ajayji, very, very good question you have raised. I support you, yes, because China, it is always a marriage of convenience. They will only rake up. They are very, very, selective about the use of words.
Right.
They are very selective about, giving statements. And as you rightly said, they are not talking of, pre-April situation,
right,
or the situation ante. Yeah. Whereas, they have been talking that there should be no further escalation. There should be no altering of the LAC. So what we must insist is, though India has insisted that we must have a pre-April situation, and which is a crystal clear statement that yes, they have intruded in our territory, and it is high time they should go back. And there is no question of having peace and tranquility when there is so much of undercurrents which are there. There is so much of trust deficit between the two countries. You see, in LAC, the armies, the two armies have never been in eyeball-to-eyeball contact.
Right.
This was a scenario in LOC and not in LAC. So
actually I wanted to come to that. Now has LAC become LOC, and has LAC been defined de facto in a de facto manner?
No. You see, nothing has been defined as such, and unless you go in for agreements which is substantiated by in writing, and both the parties they agree. And as I have been telling earlier also, that we have such kind of
scientific tools which are available, the digital tools which are available, where the two premiers, they can sit across the table and their ministries and their counterparts can demarcate it. And even if there are enclaves or such areas of dispute or discussion, they can be sorted out amicably. You see the expenditure on state. You see there are almost 50,000 troops, and you have to support them in the entire winters. It is, you see, supporting operations in high altitude areas or in Siachen and such like areas. It costs money, because war is a very, very costly hobby. So what we have to do is that we have to, impress upon China that the forces should go back. There should be a disengagement. And China, this is a time when we can strike. You see, the very fact that the decoupling which is taking place of China from the rest of the world in terms of economic affairs, in terms of, the exports. There are a large number of consignments which are just lying in the docks. And China has started facing the crunch of, food import. They have gone in for some food import. The wet markets are shut. So I'm sure if China doesn't look from a broader aspect, they're going to face problems in their country.
Mr. Oja, I will ask you the same question. Has now LAC become the LOC, where troops are positioned forever?
Well, right now you can say this is a reality. Whatever talks, Yale, we can only get a little extra time. Fact is that Chinese would like to extract some advantage, but normal dealing with China is difficult, because they are not going to relax, they are not going to relent. Only thing which we can get by any understanding at this point of time, to get some extra time. But fact is that India will have to reclaim those areas, reclaim those territories. We have to rethink our position on Tibet. We have to rethink our position on Escalation. At the cause of this whole thing, at the root of whole thing, what lies is asymmetry of power between India and China. And this is what has encouraged China to, to think on those lines, continue with this expansionist kind of agenda. But they've been taken by surprise by the spirit of Indian people and Indian soldiers. I think, they would like very much, to convert whatever advantages they've gained, rather to convert these into gains and maintain into status quo, and then, push for something in future. But China's internal political contradictions have become very visible. And I think, this is high time the whole world takes note of it. And, they push for rather internal restructuring of China. This kind of opaque system, where a small number of people are having access to such lethal and destructive technologies, and they are virtually blackmailing whole world and putting their own people into some kind of servitude and using this external aggression, to further consolidate their power, is very dangerous in this kind of global order. It threatens everyone. So China would very much like, the Xi Jinping regime would like, I wouldn't say China, Xi Jinping regime would very much like to rather make or retain whatever gains they have made on LSE. So they would very much like, but I suppose, our troops, our government, our country is not going to let them have this. So these talks, etc., whatever we may agree, this is a process, and process we have to go through, and we have to certainly try and avoid military conflict, full-fledged military conflict as far as concerned. But I think that we are in for a long haul, and it will not be over even only if we are able to have status quo ante also is restored. That is not sufficient, because we have to think of a little bigger strategy if we want to live in peace with China, and that is possible only when Chinese have a little better system, and we are otherwise also strong enough to deter any hostile intent. Not action, but even intent has to be deterred.
So intent is the most crucial part, and we have to be alert and aware. I mean, alert and from because of deceitful nature of China. My time is running out of the show. Thanks both of you for participating in this debate.
Thank you so much.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.